Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really digging into the future of mining. We've got this report from the Global Investor Commission on Mining 2030, and let me tell you, it's dense.
Yeah.
But we're here to, pull out the most interesting stuff, the things that'll make you sound smart, or at least get you thinking.
Well, one thing that jumps out right away is this sort of paradox with mining. We kind of need it for, everything, but it comes with a cost, a big one. Environmentally and socially, it's a tough one.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, get this. 2021 alone, the world mined enough to build 1,000 Great Pyramids of Giza. 1,000! Can you imagine?
It's mind-boggling. And the demand, it's only going up, especially as we try to move away from fossil fuels, electric cars, solar panels, all that. They need minerals, what they call transition minerals.
Right, because it's not like iron or whatever that we've been mining forever,
Yeah,
right?
right.
This is different.
Totally.
Yes.
And this is where it gets even more, fascinating. This demand, it's shifting where mining happens. It used to be just a few countries. Now it's spreading out.
To where? Give us some examples.
Think Chile. Suddenly, they're huge in lithium. Or the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've always had the cobalt. But these places, they've got their own challenges, let's say.
So it's not just the mining itself, it's where it's happening that adds to the worries.
Exactly. And that's where this report gets really into it. For example, over 70%, think about that, 70% of mining operations for the biggest companies, water-stressed countries.
70%. Man, talk about a recipe for conflict. A community already hurting for water, then you add in a big mining operation.
And it's not just water. This report, it cites a study by S&P Global, found that 29% of mining sites, the ones overlapping with what they call key biodiversity areas.
Those are the really important ecosystems, right?
Yep, and a huge chunk of them are, you guessed it, focused on getting those transition minerals.
So it's we're trying to go green, but are we just creating new problems?
That's the tightrope we're walking. Huge need for these minerals, but the risks to the planet, to people.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's kind of scary, honestly. So what do we do?
Well, that's where this report takes a really interesting turn. It looks at the role of investors.
Yeah, investors. They're becoming more and more important in all this.
Hold on, I thought we were talking about giant holes in the ground, not Wall Street. What's money got to do with it?
It's all about leverage. You see, investors, they decide what gets funded, right? And this report, it argues they have a huge part to play in making mining more responsible.
Okay, I'm listening. But how does some investor, wherever they are, change what's happening on some mine, halfway across the world?
They've got a few ways. One, they can go directly to the mining companies, push for better practices. Only invest if the company's doing things right. Or they can push governments to make tougher rules.
So it's like activism, but with money.
Kinda. But it's bigger than that. They can also support this idea of a circular economy. Basically, we get better at recycling and reusing, so we don't need to mine as much in the first place.
Circular economy. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So less digging, more circling.
Exactly. It's about thinking long-term, designing products differently, making recycling easier. It's all connected.
Okay, so even though mining's got all these risks, it sounds like investors can actually make a difference. They're not all evil, huh?
Not at all. In fact, this report lays out 6 big goals, strategic objectives to guide them toward a better mining future.
6 goals, huh?
Yeah.
All right, lay 'em on us. What are we talking about?
Well, the first, and maybe the most important, is aligning those investment decisions with global standards, environment, social impact, the whole 9 yards. It's about more than just making a buck.
So it's no more looking the other way if a company's making money, but trashing the planet in the process.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's about taking a broader view, looking at the whole picture from start to finish. How's this mine going to get started, operate, and eventually close down? And what about the people and the environment every step of the way? It's a big shift.
Sounds like it. So what else did they focus on? What were some of the other objectives?
One that really resonated with me was all about making sure the local communities actually see some benefits from mining on their land.
Well, yeah. You'd think that'd be a given, right? But something tells me it's not always the case.
Sadly, you're right. Too often we see this pattern where the profits, they fly away, but the communities, they're stuck dealing with the mess left behind.
So how do we flip the script? How do we make sure that the wealth from mining actually benefits the folks who live there?
It starts with giving those communities a real voice,
Well,
letting them have a say in how these projects happen. And it means making sure there are jobs for local people, training programs, that kind of thing. Oh, and respecting indigenous communities and their land rights is huge, especially when mining overlaps with their traditional territories.
it's about building a genuine partnership, right? Not just exploiting resources and leaving.
Exactly. This report, it really stresses that responsible mining isn't just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's about actually making things better for everyone involved.
Makes sense. And that takes a lot of work, I imagine. Building trust takes time. So what about the rest of these objectives? Anything else stand out?
One that caught my eye was dealing with, well, the legacy of mining. Specifically, what happens to these mines when they're all tapped out? Cleaning up abandoned mines is a big one.
Oh, right, because once the company's gone, what happens to those places? Can't just sweep them under the rug, can we?
Definitely not. They can be really dangerous, actually. Leaking toxins into the water, the soil for years and years. This objective, it basically says, look, you got to have a plan from the beginning. How are you going to shut this mine down responsibly? And you got to put money aside to actually do it right.
So it's about holding these companies accountable even after they've packed up and left.
You got it. And it encourages investors to think long term. Don't just look at the potential profits. Think about the potential cleanup costs, too. Environmental responsibility from day one.
So just to recap for a sec, we've got this paradox, right? We need more mining to go green, but mining itself ain't exactly green. And this shift towards a low-carbon economy, it's pushing mining to new places, which comes with its own set of headaches. But, and this is a big but, it sounds like investors are starting to realize they have a real role to play in cleaning things up.
You've summed it up perfectly. It's complicated, that's for sure. No easy answers here.
We're at a crossroads, it seems. The decisions we make about mining in the next few years, where these resources come from, how we deal with the impact, it's going to echo for a long, long time. This report, though, it's not just about pointing fingers. It's about offering some solutions, some ways forward.
Exactly. Those 6 objectives, they're like a roadmap, a way for investors, mining companies, even governments to work together and make this industry better.
And that brings us back to the core of this whole deep dive. This report, it was written for investors, right, to guide their choices. But this feels bigger than just Wall Street, doesn't it?
You're picking up what we're putting down, because at the end of the day, all this demand for these minerals, it's coming from us, the consumers.
Ah, see where you're going with this. We all want the latest gadgets, the electric cars, all that.
Yeah,
But that creates the demand for these minerals, right?
exactly. And that means we've got a responsibility, too, to ask questions. Where'd this stuff come from? Was it mined ethically? Are there environmental protections in place? We need to be asking these questions.
It's not enough to just buy green products. We have to look deeper at the whole system, the journey those minerals took to get to us.
Right on. We got to look past the shiny packaging and think about the real cost of our stuff.
And that's actually kind of empowering, isn't it? We're not just along for the ride. We actually have some power here. Our choices matter.
100%. Every dollar we spend sends a message. And if we start demanding ethically sourced, sustainable products, that message gets heard loud and clear.
It's not just about, hey, cool electric car. It's about, hold on, where'd they get the stuff to make this battery? That's what we got to start thinking about.
Right. And even then, it's like, okay, how do I make this battery last longer? Can I get my phone fixed instead of just tossing it for a new one? These little things, they add up. If everyone starts thinking that way, that sends a message.
It's like we've been handed this amazing future, clean energy, all this cool tech, but we got to be smart about it. Got to understand the whole picture.
Exactly. And not just the price tag, right? The environmental impact, the human cost. This report, it makes you see those minerals differently. It's not just what they build, but how we get them.
Instead of just being like stuff we buy,
Yeah.
they're precious.
Yeah.
We got to treat them that way.
Totally. And what if we did that with all mining? Not just digging till it's gone, but doing it right. Protecting things, thinking long term, like that circular economy idea.
Yeah, that's a future I can get behind. And even though this report was for investors, it feels like it's got a message for all of us.
100%. Because at the end of the day, yeah, investors have a role, but we're the ones using this stuff. We have power too.
This whole deep dive, man, I learned a lot. Didn't know much about mining going in, got to be honest.
It's complicated, but the good news is there are things we can do, real solutions to make this industry better.
Yeah, that's the important part. We talked about the problems, the challenges,
Yeah.
but also the hope, right, that we can actually change things for the better.
That's what it's all about. Having these conversations, digging deeper, understanding the nuances, That's how we build a better future.
Could have said it better myself. So, to everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. What if we all dug a little deeper? Not just for minerals, but for knowledge. What choices will you make to support a more responsible future for mining? That's something to think about. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.